Welcome to episode 5. We're headed over to Dead Letters. I can't remember where that is, but I have a feeling it's through the glowing door. One of the nice things about this game is how it marks your objective, but there's a flaw with that, because if you've ever walked through the door before, it sort of stops telling you, which is like if you go exploring, it punishes you. It's just no good. Of course, you can try and follow the map, but good luck with that.
There it is again. Our welcome message.
So here is the interstitial room between the dead male section and our executive area. And you can see that this room has a little bit of an unusual structure because it's got these sound dampening panels all along the side. That's a little bit strange because usually you find sound dampening panels in places where you need to dampen sound. I don't really think that this place needs that, but it does make for a really cool sort of airport terminal sort of look. Other than that, I think they were just going for an interstitial room, so they dropped it and put a whole bunch of indicative crap in the way, like mailbags. When you're trying to move between two zones, it can be challenging to figure out how to have the zones change over. Where does one zone change and the next zone start? How do you indicate that? This is a pretty good way. Dump a whole bunch of mailbags in front of the mailroom. You hear Tomasi screaming at the top of his lungs. Let's kill some dudes, then we'll talk about this area. Come on in. You are our first winner. Alright. We've entered into Dead Male. Specifically, we've entered into the cafeteria. There's kind of a middling room here. They use these medium complexity office spaces for a lot. And that makes sense because they need to be able to exchange rooms. Oh, did you see that? A mail. See that? Mail's going through. That's cool. I never noticed that before. It's neat. They use these offices, these generic offices, as rearrangeable elements. So even if they get rid of them or move them around, you're not likely to get surprised or confused. This one is rather more permanent because there's corpses in it. So here we've got the atrium, and this is the cafeteria atrium. You can see down here there's a bunch of tables, and we're directly above the kitchen. So, sorry, I don't really want them shouting at me all the time while I'm trying to talk about room design. There we are. So what we've got here is a giant two-story atrium that follows basically the same rules as all of their other multi-story atriums. There is this massive rise in the center, which is glowing super bright, and there's some off-center central indicator, in this case a tree, and it pulls the whole room together. The off-center-ness of the indicator is really important, whether it's a tree or a plinth, an obelisk, or whatever else you need to be, because there is a lot of coming and going, and it's really important that the user, the player, kind of understand whether they're on one side of the room or the other, and the easiest way to do that is to make sure there's some asymmetry. In this case, while the central area isn't super asymmetrical, there are radically different decorations depending on the side of the room you're on. This direction is deadly.
It's overpowering here.
We'll get there eventually.
You don't want me anywhere near it. I'm with you on that.
I'm a little bit curious as to whether I could just power through, given that I am technically immortal, but I have a feeling they just don't let you through the door. I think there's some dudes down here we gotta shoot. There's always dudes down here we gotta shoot. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Alright, so we've now cleared out this area. There's a lot to say about this atrium level. And one of the things I really like about it is that it has this beautiful staircase over in the corner here. So this beautiful staircase is, I don't know, by the way, I have no idea how loud those voices are to you. They are quite loud to me, and yes, that does help, shooting out speakers and stuff. Anyway, this beautiful staircase in the corner is a kind of design that I rarely see in games, and I really like. Not because of what's on top of the staircase, but because of how they've bracketed behind the staircase with bathrooms. Now, obviously, if you're going to have a big, bold staircase like this, it's going to draw all the attention because it is huge and brightly lit and full of fun horizontal lines. So if you put something behind it, whatever you put behind it is going to be underplayed. It's not going to be very noticeable. And so bathrooms are the perfect thing to put behind it. I have a feeling originally this bathroom was supposed to be mirrored, but either it just didn't quite fit or there's something else wrong with it. So they have it cutting off in the other direction. Either way, the idea of a huge, really attractive stone staircase with some rooms behind it, I like that idea. I think it is something that we don't see very much of. A stairway is not just a stairway. It's a space, and it can be it can dominate the room, and it can have things behind it, and it can have things under it. It can be interacted with in all the ways spaces normally can. And then we've got ourselves the cafeteria with all of the eateries and stuff like that. All the, I don't even know what you call these, serving tray stuff. And then it's just a really nice little eatery. It's, I don't know whether I would have put it here if I was the building owner, because it's not really, it doesn't feel very central to me. It kind of feels, there's not really any convenient entrances, but maybe that's because they're all sealed off by whatever is going on. Either way, we're going to see more of this as time goes on because there are a bunch of different entrances here and there. We do want to go to the dead mail drop area, which is through here. But there are a lot more things to talk about in this room. I guess we'll get to them later. For now, however, let's go ahead and clear this room out. Can't see them. Can you not? Thank you. It's fine. I'm not too concerned. They're just thugs. Ooh, what was that? Hello. How are you? Okay, so in here we can see some red, which means there's a control point. I believe the control point is actually right down there. There's a lot of shouting dudes in this room. It's really interesting because although the noise comes from these people, it doesn't actually come from these people in a directional sense. It just kind of, the distance of the person determines how loud it is, but it doesn't come from their direction. It's super loud right now, which is a shame because I want to talk about some stuff, but I guess what we'll do is we will claim the control point before we do anything significant in this room. There's a lot to talk about in here because Dead Letters is a really interesting location for me, and you know. Ooh, hello. Did I get? No, I don't have. Yeah, I guess I gotta take him down manually. That's fine. As you can see, I'm not too fussed. Sure are a lot of dudes in here. I think we're out of dudes. No more dudes. Let's go ahead and just grab some loot while we're here. And of course, by loot, I mean files. And then we'll head on down. We'll just go straight to the control point, clear this up, and then we'll visit the area. It must be upstairs. That's fine. Here it is. So this is a good time as any to talk about the way that the Tumorous walls look. They are using some very typical concrete stylings here. This is a style of brutalism that I don't mind in real buildings. I think it looks kind of interesting, but they're misusing it. They're misusing it on purpose to make it look ugly. Of course, it looks ugly normally as well, but it's a different kind of ugly. And I don't know whether or not I particularly think that really feels unique or right. It really feels like they are cribbing from other games. For example, it looks like Nice and C. So I'm not a huge fan of the visual they've chosen to sort of tell the player that the building is hallucinating or is in bad shape. I would have preferred something a little bit more indicative of some actual personality, rather than just, oh, you don't understand these shapes because nobody understands brutalism, which seems like an easy out. The other thing I don't like about them is that they just kind of retreat. So watch, when I pull this control point, all of these are going to just retreat away and leave behind the room. It's not like the room forms out of them or the room comes into existence. The room is there. There's just game meshes in front of it. And I mean, I think I'm the only person that's ever complained about that, but to me it just doesn't have quite the same punch that you'd get if it had some style to it, if it had some construction to it. And some rooms do, like the Black Pyramid room that we were in earlier. When we cleared that up, all these pillars rose from the ground. It was actually quite nice. That said, once it's clear, this room looks amazing, and this is definitely one of their strongest points. They really understand how to make big rooms. So I can never figure out how to arrange large spaces, and they make it seem so effortless. This space is gorgeous. It looks fantastic. And I really don't know what their inspirations were or exactly who designed it, but it just looks great. I'm going to have to assume that there are buildings that look like this. I mean, this is obviously cribbed from a car park, for example. But the way that it flows and the way that it feels so perfectly balanced is something that still strikes me. And it's the reason I am doing this, because it's really unusual to see that kind of visual in a game like this. It's like something an actual architect would spend a lot of money to do.
Just look at it. 8 inches wide and capable of storing...
So he's introducing us to our next power, which is fling or throw or whatever it's called. We don't have it yet. We'll get it soon. We just have to go through here. But before we go through here, I want to talk about the nature of dead letters. So this is the department where all of the normal mail goes, like mail from outside the area that can't be delivered. Like if it's a letter to Santa Claus, it'll come here, because the oldest house is where mail goes to die. But they also get lots of mail from just like cranks, you know? So this is where they store all of that random ass mail. They don't think it's ever going to be useful, but they still have to file it. And storage is a really powerful visual tool when you're doing your level design, because it's almost invisible. I've spoken before. One of the things you do when you're trying to build levels is you have to keep your eye out for ways to make the player's eye not notice things. And storage is one of the easiest ways to do that. Storage elements can be repeated endlessly, and the player's eye will just kind of pass over them, and that is a powerful tool in creating levels that flow. Here, for example, we've got these low-slung cabinets, and these are not like flat grid cabinets. You can see they're kind of arranged with some life to them, kind of off-center a little bit. And we've also got these wonderful high-stack cabinets. I love these because they open. I think that's wonderful. It just feels cool when things like that happen. But they're all basically invisible. The player is going to just kind of skate their eye across and continue on. And that makes them some of the most powerful level design tools you can have. So keep that in mind if you're trying to design a level. you don't want all of your level design elements to draw the eye. You have to make a lot of them boring on purpose in just the right way. Ah, our first episode of Threshold Kids. It's a genuinely creepy little short. I'm not going to play it or watch it because that's not what this playthrough is about, but if you're interested in something that is genuinely a little creepy, try it. Go ahead and go watch it. I'm sure you can find the individual episodes on their own and have some fun with that. They really remind me of the the Don't Touch Me cartoons or sketches. They weren't really cartoons, Muppet shows. Alright, so we're going to move on into Communications Department because we're headed out from Dead Letters and into the Pneumatics.
We're on the right track.
Woohoo. Let's go get some loot. Here's another multi-story atrium. They do the same thing they always do with a raised element, but it's worth shooting this guy in the head so he doesn't interrupt me. It's worth talking about the fact that this is not a square element. So far, most of the two-story atriums have been huge, and the central element has been very carefully square. It has been like a massive skylight sort of thing. Here they're starting to go with a little bit of a slot instead, which makes perfect sense because this room is not large enough to punch out a big hole. Understanding the kinds of sizes that you need for your vertical elements is critical. Was that glowing? Whatever. It's critical for understanding... Oh, sorry, I distracted myself. The size of the room changes the kinds of vertical hops you can do. And in this case, they've chosen to break the room up with a wide horizontal vertical shaft. And I think that's an excellent choice. It really helps to make this room have a sense of direction because we're headed down this way towards the light. We'll see a lot more examples of that, and, I'll explain them as we go. This room is full of these noise dampener walls. I'm not 100% sold that these are supposed to be noise dampener walls. Like, I'm not sure that they know. They must, though. I mean, they're pretty good. They must know that these are normally used for noise dampening. Here you can see more punch cards, more time cards. And now, there's a guy. He's not doing anything, so we're going to go ahead and ignore that. This is a wonderful hallway. Here you can see a very common approach. We're going to see this approach throughout the rest of the game. It's an asymmetrical hallway, and what we've got is we've got this massive vertical lift to one side of the hallway that brings down all of this gorgeous light, and this natural light fills that side of the hallway. The other side of the hallway is left in shadow. This gives us a wonderful sense of directionality and a wonderful life. I think it works really fantastic. You'll often find that they actually use dark elements on the dark side. For example, dark paint, dark backdrops, dark plumbing, dark panels, dark windows. That just kind of highlights the difference between the white concrete over here and the dark elements over here. I think this is one of the most beautiful kinds of hallways we can build, and it looks great. They use it a ton, and it always works. Oh, it's been 20 minutes. Jeez. All right, well, we're going to flip over to the next episode then.